Welcome back to our channel for this week. Just to stick with our theme of brewing for the last couple of videos that we've made, we're going to brew you the first V60 recipe that I ever learned. So I first learned how to brew pour over with a V60 when I was working for 5 Senses in Perth about 10 years ago, I believe. The V60 game has changed a lot since then with some awesome book releases like Physics of Filter Coffee by Jonathan Gagne and a lot of work that's been done around the world by different professional coffee people. But in general, for me, this recipe is really simple to brew with. It's relatively simple to follow, and I think for me, it's still one that I use on a day-to-day basis with some slight adjustments here and there, but I'll talk you through it. So today we're going to be brewing 15 grams of dry coffee, aiming to have a finished brew volume of 250 grams. Our water temperature based on our light to medium roast of coffee will be 96 degrees. This gives us a brew ratio of about 1:16. Our grind will be medium. I might go a little bit coarser than medium because we want the finished brew time to be around 2 minutes 30 to 2 minutes 40. We're going to break up that 250 grams of water at the end into 5 even pours. So that will be 50 grams each. Did I eat a coffee bean in the last videos? So this might look weird, but it's the easiest and the fastest way to get a kind of understanding of how you need to grind and brew, because each coffee that we work with, depending on how it's roasted, will have a different kind of solubility. So grab a coffee bean, pop it in your mouth. Yum. Yeah, it's quite weird, isn't it? But chew down, and you can tell quite quickly, one, how dense the coffee is, so how easy it is to break apart in your mouth, and also how easy the solubles are to extract. So if a coffee is roasted really light, or if it's a very high altitude coffee, it'll be very dense, and it'll be really difficult to kind of remove those flavors. So you'll find increasing the extraction or the solubility by increasing the temperature of your water, by increasing how you pour, like in order to get more agitation in the coffee. These things will help you in pulling more flavors out. So today we have this coffee from Papua New Guinea, from the Kainantu region. It's called Baroida Estate. So we sell this here in our store. This coffee is relatively simple to remove the flavors. So it is dense, but it's relatively soluble. So I'll try out a medium or slightly coarser than medium kind of grind setting, and we'll see how that goes. Just a couple of notes for me with the V60. The thing with pour overs in general, like if you're just getting into this at home, there are a lot of different variables that will affect your overall brew. So we have the amount of water, we have the amount of dry coffee, we have the temperature of water as well as the quality of the water. We want like a relatively soft, not too hard, but not completely like distilled water. We want something in the middle, like a nice quality water that doesn't have odor or flavor, ideally. Don't get one of the fancy like alkaline waters. They're terrible with coffee. So your water quality, your water temperature, how much water at the end, how much dry coffee. So these things will have a huge impact on the way your coffee tastes at the end. Your grind setting as well. So grind setting is something that you could play with to find your own kind of flavor. But also you'll find that with a kettle, the more control that you have over how you pour helps a lot. Like sometimes you can use like a home kettle, but it doesn't have this kind of fancy gooseneck spout, which slows down the speed and gives us a lot more control. So getting a kettle like this with a gooseneck it's a really good investment and a really good help for brewing good coffee. How fast you pour, so how fast or how slow you pour, as well as the height at which you pour from, will also have an impact on the agitation, therefore the amount of extraction of your coffee. So I feel like I've talked enough. Shall we get brewing? So first things first, I'm going to weigh us out 15 grams of coffee, and then we'll do our classic trip going inside and grinding that up. So again, 15 grams of dry coffee to 250 grams at the end. So I usually like to chuck in another 2. So I've got 15 grams in here. I'll chuck in another 2 beans that I'll use to purge the coffee, like to purge the grinder when we get in store first. I'll chuck on my kettle just so while we're gone, it's heating up, 96 degrees. All right, let's grind. So we've ground our coffee to like a medium, just slightly coarser than medium kind of grind setting. So yeah, just a note about grind settings. So we brewed with the immersion methods in the last videos. They are fantastic because your grind setting has a far less impact on the overall brew. With pour overs like this, which are literally just, we're looking here at a 60-degree conical cone with like a hole in the middle, our grind size is really important. So like if you grind too fine, the cone filter is going to choke and the water won't pass through in a time desired for like a tasty brew. And if it's too coarse, then that water will just flow through really, really quickly and we won't be able to extract enough of the deliciousness from the coffee. Did that make sense? I really hope so. So as with our switch, it's the same. Tear this off, conical filter, fold this along the seam, just so that she fits inside a little bit better. Today we're brewing with, another thing to note, depending on the material of the brewer that you're using, you're going to need to preheat it or not. So like we're using a plastic brewer, which it's a lot easier. You don't need to preheat her as much as if you're using a glass or a ceramic brewer. Yeah, if you're using glass or ceramic, then they're going to suck up all of the heat from the brew and your coffee is going to end up being under extracted as well, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to tear her off, put my 15 grams of coffee inside. You want to make her nice and even inside the brewer here. So for an even bed, for even extraction. Zero her off again. Our kettle temperature is currently at 96 degrees. I'll hit the start timer. And as I said, so our total brew time, 250 grams, and we're going to divide that into 5 even pours. So we want 50 grams for the bloom. First pour is called a bloom because as soon as the coffee comes into contact with water, it releases a lot of the carbon dioxide, so it blooms up. You'll see it swell up. Now at 30 seconds, we start the second pour of 50 grams. Starting in the middle and just gently spiraling out, trying not to touch the sides. And again, pouring until 100 grams. That's the second pour. We wait until 1 minute and then you pour another 50 grams. So again, the total brew weight, 250 grams divided into 5 pours, and you will pour those every 30 seconds. So it means like it's relatively easy to remember. As soon as you hit as soon as you start the timer, you pour 50 grams. You wait until the timer hits 30 seconds, you pour another 50 grams. You wait until the timer hits 1 minute, you pour another 50 grams, and so on until you reach your desired weight of 250 grams, which should happen at 2 minutes. Then we wait, we want the last of the water to drain through the coffee by 2 minutes 30 to 2 minutes 40. And if that doesn't work at the desired time, that means you want to change your grind a little bit coarser for the coffee that you've got. You can also pour a little bit faster. But in general, you want to try and get your technique for pouring consistent and repeatable. It's just good to try and train yourself to minimize human error or our variability in our technique. Okay, we're at 2 minutes. Now for the last pour. Spiraling outwards from the inside. Cool, 250 grams. Cool, and then we wait. So if you want to increase the solubility here, if your coffee is quite lightly roasted, you can grab the brewer and give her a bit of a swirl, which will just agitate the coffee a little bit more to increase extraction. So it looks like we've gone a little bit too fine here. If I'd brew this again, I would just change my grind setting a tiny bit. So this was the first recipe that I ever really learned. Simple, easy to use. It's repeatable, easily repeatable. You don't have to think too hard, which is really nice. Yeah, that was a bit longer than I want. If I brew it again, I'll grind a little bit more coarse. Brewed with a different coffee before and that grind setting worked perfectly. So I guess this is also just a kind of note, depending on the coffee that you use at home, you'll have to find your own kind of desired grind setting in order to get the best results from the extraction, if that makes sense. The roast, it does impact a lot. It's quite nice, as expected due to the timing of the brew. For me, it's a little bit bitter, but a little bit over extracted, what we would call. But I guess I also just want to say, for those of you that have either just started brewing with this type of method at home or want to get into it, the different variables that I've been talking about that affect your recipe, and in particular the overall brewing time. So I've been referring to the extraction time. We want to aim for between 2 minutes 30 to 2 minutes 40 for that final drawdown of the water. The difference in extraction time, it will have an impact on your overall flavor, but also what I love about the coffee world is that you create your own thing. You create your own recipe. You can create your own everything. All of the kind of rules or the guidelines of a recipe that we've put down are to experiment with. And if you find something that you like the flavor of and that is easily repeatable, then by all means run with that. And also we'd love to hear about it, because I mean, as I was saying, one of the things I love about the coffee world is the innovation. We're always learning and we're always growing and we're always changing things. For me, in general, most of the coffees that I brewed, they taste good around 2 minutes 30 to 2 minutes 40 with this type of recipe and this type of grind setting. But if you find something that you like, then by all means, that's, like, go for it, love, I got your back. So just to add to that last note, there are a lot of rules in coffee. In general, if you talk to, if you have any friends that are like super geeky and passionate about it, there's a lot of like rules and a lot of like know-how, but ultimately what you find tasty, that's the rule. Like, that is the be all and end all. So really, like, feel free to rip apart this recipe, to play with it, to change it up and let us know what you find. If you want, let us know your favorite recipes. We'll definitely be shooting more videos with the V60 to come, but more with different types of the recipes. Like, we'll do our own take on the Hoffman and Lance Hedrick's bad boy. Yeah, so the only right and wrong is for your preference. We just offer what we recommend and some ways to play. Any questions for us, anything to note, but in the comments below. Feel free to subscribe, support our work. It helps immensely, and have a beautiful day. We'll see you next week.